Today's song is called Little White Lies. It's about being friends with slash loving slash sometimes dating a person with an addiction to muscle relaxers. You're probably thinking, why would you keep dating people with pill problems? And I get it. I assure you that I am just as confused with past me's choices as you are. I can tell you what I think happened though, which is that despite despising addiction, having been married to someone who had it for so long, it became something that I was familiar with, something that was comfortable to me. As much as I hated it, dealing with addiction became part of my everyday life. It became part of my home. And so when that home disappeared, I believe there were large parts of my subconscious that were trying to replace it, that were seeking that feeling of home. And addiction was something that I had become accustomed to. At the time, my mind was broken, and so I gravitated towards the things that I felt most comfortable with. I think this is actually a common thing that happens to a lot of people without them realizing it, is that when you become accustomed to certain things, you seek them out. I know lots of people who've had shitty parents, that they were treated badly, they were abused in a variety of ways. They saw their parents be mean to each other. And later in life, they seek out relationships in which they are treated in those same ways. Bad relationships in which they treat each other badly, in which they are abused by the people they're in relationships with. And I think that that is because that is what they are most comfortable with. They may not like it, but it feels like home to them. They gravitated towards shitty relationships not because they enjoyed being treated like shit, but because it had become an ingrained dynamic, and it was the only way that they could feel comfortable around somebody, because it's familiar. This is actually why it's so important for all of us parents to treat our children well, and when we're in relationships that our children see, to have those be respectful, happy relationships. Because if they're not, if our children see something else, if they become accustomed to something else, later they're going to go out and seek a similar home life. So it's essential that we show them how to exist in this world and interact with each other with respect and happiness, especially with our partners. Don't fuck your kids up. Show them a state of happiness and respect as a normal state of being. But enough lecturing for now. The reality of my past is that I was once again madly in love with somebody who had issues. In the beginning it wasn't as obvious to me because I was very drunk a lot of the time when we were around each other. We'd sit around drinking and listening to records, and because I was so fucked up, I didn't really have an understanding of how fucked up she was. We were two damaged people taking comfort and spending time together. As I became more and more psychologically and emotionally healthy and not as into that lifestyle, it became more and more obvious that she had a problem. And she didn't really have any interest in becoming better, so we'd break apart. And then we'd come back together and we'd break apart and come back together. And that was just how things were for a while, because we had been tightly connected. We truly loved each other during some of this time period, so it was difficult just to go our separate ways. Parts of me were in love, parts of me were lonely, but we were terrible together. But I felt loved in her presence, and I felt abandoned when I wasn't in her presence. And I needed to feel loved still. I still had that need to feel loved. I would be remiss to not point out that her addiction did not start in a vacuum. She had been in a serious accident and had been run over by a car as a pedestrian and had some serious injuries, and that's how the painkillers and the muscle relaxers started. But as so often happens, once the injury healed, there was addiction left in its place. But this isn't a song about addiction. This is a song about leaving an addict. I told her that I couldn't hang out with her anymore as long as she was on her pills, and she agreed to stop. We'd go out, we'd be fine, we'd be having a good time, and then she'd disappear into the bathroom for a bit and not come out for a while. And when she came out, she would be fucked up and she'd be a totally different person, a zombie. We went shopping one time and she disappeared. I couldn't find her. I couldn't get a hold of her. I ended up having to go remove her from the dressing room of an Urban Outfitters. A few weeks later, we go out to lunch. We're talking, joking around, having a good time. Goes into the bathroom, comes back a disaster, and essentially falling asleep into her food. I had to literally pick her up from the booth and carry her outside, bundle her in the car, get her home. To this day, there's probably people that were in that Denny's that think they witnessed a drugging and a kidnapping, because we came in totally normal and we left with me carrying her out. The more healthy I became as a person, the more I realized that this was beyond just not being able to date. We were not going to be able to maintain a friendship. I couldn't do it. So I left. A few months later, she texts me. She's in a bad state. She feels broken. She feels empty. She feels lonely. She tells me that she feels unlovable. Now, I can't accept this. And so I take a bunch of magazines and I cut out various pictures and phrases and lyrics that I write, and I put together a little book, like a little zine, and it's called 15 Reasons to Love. And this book just details 15 reasons why she's an incredible person and worthy of love. So I finished making this book, and even though I wasn't ready to hang out with her, I went and I dropped it off on her doorstep and I left. She keeps texting me. She really wants to hang out. So I said, all right, I'm going to come over, but there can't be any pills. I just can't deal with that anymore. At this point in time, I couldn't have anything to do with that sort of thing. I couldn't witness it without just being... I was just done. But she agrees, and so I come over. She gives me coffee. We're gonna go out. She's like, just give me a minute. I need to go get ready. And she goes into the bathroom and is taking forever. And I'm just like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. And when she comes out, she can barely function, can barely move. And so I told her that I've got to go. I got to get out of here. I got to go home. But first, I'm going to help her get upstairs and into bed, because she's so far gone that she can't even manage getting up the stairs. So, carry her up the stairs, put her in her bed, trying to tuck her in one last time, and she reaches out and she's trying to like pull me into bed. She's trying to seduce me in this moment. And maybe that's something that had happened before, back when I was also fucked up and didn't realize how grotesque this scene was, but it totally sobered me. It was horrified. It was difficult to believe that this used to be a reality that I was part of, that this was a cycle that used to be acceptable to me. So I ran away. I left. The next day, she's texting me constantly like, oh, I'm so sorry. I swear that I wasn't even pills. I was just really tired. Just a bunch of bullshit. If you've ever been around an addict, you've heard all of these crazy nonsense excuses that they make up. And I just wasn't having it. And so finally she admits, she was fucked up. And she apologizes, but it's too late. It's not about an apology. It's not about being wronged. It's about I don't have any room for that in my existence. I have no space for that kind of lifestyle. And so she's upset, and she sends me a picture of the cover of the little book that I'd made her, and it says 15 Reasons to Love. And for some reason this makes me furious. I'd made her this gift out of love, and she's taking it and throwing it back in my face as if this gesture, this creative gesture of affection, somehow meant that now I owed it to her to accept her addiction and make that part of my life. And so I had recently purchased a little thumb piano that I was just messing around with, and I had been playing little loops on it. I had it with me as I got that text, and so I was messing with it, and I just started singing along. And that 15 Reasons to Love thing made me so mad, so I sing along. 15 reasons to forget. This is the last song that you'll get. And just, instead of 15 Reasons to Love, it was just right down the line, all these reasons to forget. Because I was done. I removed every part of my heart from her care. If you've never loved an addict, that may seem harsh to you. Just be glad that you've never loved an addict. The sad truth is that a lot of the time, cutting them completely from your heart is the only way to survive. This song is called Little White Lies, and it's about the little white pills that made a once beautiful friendship impossible to maintain.
Here she comes, she can barely walk again. Take my arm, I'll guide you home again. What's that you said? You fucked up once more, but you love me so. That's good to know, I guess. Every time I stay the night, your body strips away my pride. Held defenseless in your spell, I grasp at the lies it tells. You confess that you think you're worthless. I protest. To me, you're everything. And if only you could leave behind those pills, we could build the home we've wanted. Every time I stay the night, your body strips away my pride. Held defenseless in your spell, I grasp at the lies it tells. I've been broken so long, forgotten how to be strong, but you've got little white reasons to move on, little white reasons to stay gone. I've been broken so long, forgotten how to be strong, but you've got little white reasons to move on, little white reasons to stay gone. She says, please don't go. Don't you remember when you were my best friend? I can't lose that again. So stay a while, I'll give you all my warmth. No one else will love you like I do. Held defenseless in your spell, I've grasped at the lies you tell. But every time I stayed the night, your body stripped away my pride. And I've got little white reasons to move on. So this will be our final song. I've learned how to just say no. It's time to take my heart and go. It's time to take my heart and go. It's time to take my heart and go.